It's the battle of the 1993 expansion tonight in Orange County. Will the Panthers continue their long winning streak in Anaheim? All this and more on this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Ducks.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On Anaheim Ducks podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'd like to thank you guys for making Locked On Panthers and Locked On Ducks your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, the host of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, here with Kyle Kjer of Locked On Ducks on this crossover edition. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase, and you could do that all on Game Time. So the Florida Panthers will be starting a 4-game road trip out in California and in Vegas, while the Anaheim Ducks will be wrapping up a homestand tonight. And these two teams are meeting for the second time in a matter of a week, and it's the 7-3-1 Anaheim Ducks. So Kyle, great to be coming together with you for the first time on a crossover. So looking forward to this one.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Armando. And it is the battle of 1993, back at it. And both teams have had quite the roller coaster of history back and forth. And it's definitely a surprising year for Anaheim. And unfortunately, it looks like you guys have been a little wounded over there, licking your wounds, no pun intended.
Yeah, and it's funny because the Panthers actually made an announcement of a meal deal when the Ducks came to town, of that the total price of it what is 1993, and they're continuing that on for the rest of the season. So perfect
Nice.
timing for the Panthers to do that. But yeah, a lot of history for these two teams, although they haven't been both dominant at the same time, but they've checked up a lot of boxes. Multiple Cup finals, 2003 and 2007 for the Ducks, and then the last three for the Panthers, and in 96. Investment from ownership, as there's going to be arena renovations for the Ducks coming up in the next few years, and then stretches of the whole state being dominant. There was a time where California was a murderer's row for teams to go through, and now it's Florida that's kind of on that for the last few years. And then big trades, blockbuster trades, the big one for the Anaheim Ducks, Teemu Selanne; for the Florida Panthers, Matthew Tkachuk. And to think that all of that has checked those boxes for the Panthers ever since the expansion draft and the draft in Quebec City, where a coin flip decided the draft that year, where the Ducks got Paul Kariya, the Panthers got Rob Niedermeyer, who eventually won a Stanley Cup with the Ducks in 2007. But it's crazy to see that these two teams have checked so many boxes throughout their 32 years.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's nice that Anaheim gets to claim that we're the first California team to win the Stanley Cup, even
Yeah.
though LA had a team for so long. So obviously we hold on to that dear and to our hearts, but the Kings got two. So that's kind of a bummer. But you guys are on your roll. You got two now. And I mean, with Anaheim, it's been just such a fun history. And no one I think expected California hockey to be a thing and to prosper. And my son plays hockey out here now, and it's huge. There's so many teams, and it's the fastest growing sport in California, and it's all because of things that the Anaheim Ducks have done. And I'm sure you see it out in Florida. And I would love to come out to your guys' stadium. I hear it's amazing with everything they've done there, and it's just an absolute party to hang out and see a Panthers game in person. But to watch where this team's been from the beginning, and kind of an ironic like connection here, like how I got the whole process of me becoming to Locked On. My mentor was actually uh, trying to do the play-by-play for either the Panthers or the Ducks, and he got offered from both teams to do it, and he ended up picking the Ducks. So that's
Oh,
how he
that's so
ended up out
awesome.
here in California. But it like I feel like with like you said, we're never kind of hot at the same time. And it is unfortunate that we're already going to finish our series for the year, so we don't even get to see where we're at like season end and battle each other out then. But I think this might be two teams that I think we're going to be watching creep towards the playoffs the whole season.
Yeah, and the Ducks are the one team that a lot of people said that they're going to make the biggest push. And not a lot of people have been guaranteeing them to make the playoffs, but it's mostly of internal growth and of course a new coach. And 7-3-1 for the Ducks. All key wins being the Pittsburgh Penguins, although they blew a 3-goal lead last night against Toronto. Florida Panthers last week after a 2-0 lead. Detroit just recently, who's still towards the top of the Atlantic, and then the New Jersey Devils, when healthy, I do believe that's a team that could win the President's Trophy this season for what it's worth. But you think of also season by season, what I've seen with this current Anaheim group is the fact that bringing guys along slowly but surely. I mean, Carlsson, McTavish, and Lacombe are in their third full seasons. Bennett Seneca is in his first full seasons, and then you build foundational pieces and trades for someone like Cutter Gauthier, an outstanding World Junior, and then it was a surprise trade that came out of nowhere. They kept that trade quiet right before it happened. There was no rumors of out in the open about it, and then signing veteran guys like Alex Killorn, Radko Gudas, and Frank Vetrano, who there's something about California and deferred payments. Frank Vetrano's contract is that, and Shohei Ohtani is that with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So it's been quite the build, and to think that they've also hit on draft picks from the previous general manager and Bob Murray, Perry, Lucas Dostal in the third round, Jackson Lacombe in the second, and Pat Verbeek continuing to try to build on that.
Yeah, it's this crew is really fun to watch. I mean, we're kind of trying to create our own Alexander Barkov with Leo Carlsson.
Yeah.
He seems to be such a stellar player on both ends of the ice, and he's so fun to watch. And now Beckett Seneca, I was honestly one of those people that was like, I think he needs to season a little longer. Like, he just seems kind of like, he expected to be kind of dominant, and then he wasn't during preseason. And then all of a sudden it took him like 2 games and he's like, oh, I got this. And then the regular season started and he's taken off. He looks really good out there. His long reach is really fun to watch. And then the only thing I'm worried about, though, is historically Anaheim trains really good defensemen and builds them up. Like, we had Brandon Montour. You ever heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
We had
Yeah.
Josh Manson. We had oh my gosh,
Hampus Lindholm.
Mahura. We had just all these guys that we build, and then Gibson. He's finally out now, but it's just wild to watch how much these guys have been able to develop professionals. And I think now they have the key ingredient, which is Joel Quenneville, who used to coach the Panthers, and I'm sure that was a pretty emotional return after how that kind of ended and brought Paul Maurice to the team. But what was it like kind of seeing Joel Quenneville back in the barn?
Yeah, it was awkward. Not gonna lie, based on all the history that came with what happened in Chicago. But it wasn't really talked about too much. But I'm sure it was spoken more about when he returned to Chicago, where the actual situation happened there. But yeah, there's no question that for the Panthers, when Joe Quenneville did in fact resign after the Panthers started 7-0-0, the Panthers were in a little bit of trying to figure out who they were after that. And yeah, with the coaching staff of Andrew Burnett there, he tried to still continue to play Joel Quenneville's style, but he didn't really know when to make the proper adjustments, and that's why he didn't continue on with the Florida Panthers after the playoffs. And the one thing that I got on Andrew Burnett was the fact that he was admitting publicly that the group was nervous. But the thing is, Joel Quenneville does bring the best out of teams whenever he does coach. I mean, first year in Chicago, a Western Conference final appearance. First season with the Florida Panthers, though, the team was still in a little bit of a mess defensively. Mike Matheson wasn't playing up to his contract. Keith Yandel wasn't neither, and there was a lot of high danger chances against on Sergei Bobrovsky. But I'm seeing even with Joel Quenneville with this Ducks team about how the chances against are around the same in the 30s still for Anaheim, but their shots for are up as well. So there's a little bit of a tilt. Their Corsi for percentage is at 50% versus what it was last year in 45. And John Gibson, I'm sure he's thinking, where was this when I was playing for the team? But you see for Joel Quenneville, it's the run and gun style of play that is really fast paced, and it's really hard for teams to keep up with.
Yeah, it's very fun hockey to watch right now. To me, it just speaks like how much just having a good voice behind the bench can make a difference. Because if you look at our roster, from the last 2 years to now, really the only major difference is Chris Kreider, Mikael Granlund, and Ryan Pelling. Well, Mikael Granlund's been out the last couple of games, and the Ducks have dominated two of the hottest teams in the league. Chris Kreider was out for illness the whole road trip. The Ducks have a successful road trip. There's pretty much this core group that's been building and building. And look at Ross Johnston. Like, he had 4 points the entire season last year. He had 4 points on the road trip, and he's already like one of our best forecheckers. He's noticeable every game. When you have a guy like that, that's all of a sudden you're like, who is this guy? Like, that coaching staff has completely changed the attitude and the look of this team. And I like to see that these young guys are coming together, and you can tell they want to run through a wall for each other. And they're finally like, okay, this is what we're built for. And you mentioned Sergei Bobrovsky. I had to let you know, my son actually wears 72 because of Sergei Bobrovsky. He is his favorite goaltender, sans Marc-Andre Fleury. So that is where his number comes from. And to watch Sergei play the last couple of years with the Stanley Cup, and no offense to the Lightning, but everyone keeps giving Andrei Vasilevsky that higher praise, and I'm like, we got a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion right now in Florida. It's got to be nice to have a team that when your backstopper is Bob, and when he locks in, he locks in.
No doubt. And yeah, I think a lot of people don't give him that title because he's a little older. So that's really what I'm thinking. He's 37 years old and still playing so well in the crease. And for the Panthers, they're just like how the Ducks have been missing pieces. The young guys for the Panthers have stepped up. Anton Lundell has been big for the Cats as well. So that's a big part of the Panthers core that they surround themselves, as they have 11 guys signed through 2030. But let's transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to talk about the Ducks and how there's a possibility that the Ducks are going to continue to build around their core, but could there be additions to the core come this offseason, depending on how they do this year? We're going to discuss that more on this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Ducks. But first, we're going to tell you guys all about Monarch. And most people of us can't even name our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, saving, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and it could even mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one easy to use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch's visual data boards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money is going and how to make it work harder for me. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. Segment number 2 here on this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On Ducks. Armando Velez here with Kyle Kjer, the host of Locked On Ducks, on this crossover edition of the show. So these teams haven't been dominant at the same time in their histories, but there is a way, I believe, that the Anaheim Ducks could kind of look at the example of the Florida Panthers from a few years ago and actually implement it on their roster, especially with the rise in cap. And what am I talking about for those listening? Assuming that Elliot Friedman's prediction of $107 million for next year's cap, that means the Ducks will have 43 in cap space, but they have 11 roster spots to fill. So that's quite a lot of mouths to feed for the Ducks. So there's the Cutter Gauthier contract that's going to be up, Leo Carlsson, and on the and a few other RFAs on the defense. But with 3 second-round picks next year, they still have their first next year. Before I get to a possible trade, Pat Verbeek has an opportunity to put his foot on the ground, and also whenever it comes to the contract of Leo Carlsson, to say this is going to be our internal ceiling for our star player, and nobody is going to go above that. Kind of what Bill Zito did with Alexander Barkov just a few years ago in the 2021 offseason, saying This is going to be 10. And as the cap has risen, the Panthers have been able to afford and pay players on middling salaries, like currently Marchand this year, Anton Lindell, Gustav Forsling, Eetu Luostarinen, Evan Rodriguez, and then come next year, Nico Mikkola. So that's a chance that I see of Pat Verbeek whenever it comes to this upcoming negotiation for Leo Carlsson.
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to be the barometer. This offseason was tough watching the Mason McTavish negotiation go nowhere and just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then finally you get the signing. And then like a week later, they're like, boom, Jackson Lacombe, done. And that was a surprising payout. I was not expecting that high of a contract for Jackson Lacombe, but I appreciate it. It's good to have him locked up. So now you're going to get Leo Carlsson. And yeah, I think that he's going to set that tone for the team and where everything's at. And I definitely see Verbeek trying to go more of the Panthers route. You can kind of see with the players that he's trying to bring in and how the style that Quenneville coaches, and they're getting a lot faster, heavier. They're checking a lot. They're playing a lot more physical. And then you got to worry about like, who do we bring in and who are we locking down when it comes to money? And are we going to be paying guys? And that's where I'm a little scared, because some of these guys might play themselves out of Anaheim because of how well everyone's doing collectively. But Leo Carlsson's going to be that level and setting the tone, like you said, for where these contracts are going to be landing. And having that cap space go up is, I think, a huge deal. But I don't see the Ducks trying to go more the Maple Leafs route, where they've got a super top heavy roster and then they end up just not having the supporting cast behind those big guys. So definitely nice to see the cap space going on. And you mentioned Elliot Friedman, and one of the trades that I've been hearing rumbling around beyond what I think we're going to talk about is the Artemi Panarin talks.
Yep.
And the Anaheim Ducks already have 4, 5 New York Rangers from the last couple of years. Frank Vetrano, Ryan Strome. We've got now Chris Kreider. We have Jacob Trouba. Just the whole list goes on, and we don't need to be the Anaheim Rangers. We need to be the Anaheim Ducks. And yes, Panarin's a great player, but like you said, we have so many young, talented players coming up through the system that are going to need that paycheck. So Verbeek's got his work cut out. I don't envy him right now. And he's definitely, the players have made it harder for him with how well they're all playing.
Yeah. And Pat Verbeek, the talk out there has been tough negotiator. And hey, who did he work under? Steve Yzerman in Detroit. So that's who, crazy enough, they made a trade, and he helped his friend out when it came to the Gibson contract and bringing having the contract of Ville Husso there to as a little bit to also help them get to the floor above it. But with Anaheim here, I'm also thinking about what they have as far as draft assets. And the thing is, we've seen over the years how and now it's going to continue that free agency is not gonna be a major frenzy, and that the Panthers, they built their championship team off of mostly trades and also bargaining off of them. Brandon Montour, when they traded from him from Buffalo, it was a 3rd round pick. They traded Sam Bennett for 2 second round picks. So it's and also I think of for Vladimir Tarasenko, it was not a 1st round pick that they gave up for him neither. So I think it's an opportunity to at least with the assets that Anaheim has to at least make a possible splash. And I'm thinking, I know there's Artemi Panarin, but he's a little bit on the older side. But there is a very young, skilled winger from Southern California that I'm thinking possibly Jason Robertson, possibly going back home. Yeah, you'll have to pay a little bit more for him based on the California tax versus Texas. But with what Dallas has had in a squeeze versus what Anaheim doesn't, yeah, there's, like I said, a lot of mouths to feed. What do you think the possibilities of that trade of Pat Verbeek pulling a possible trade off to bring Robertson back home?
Well, of all the 2 players, I mean, you look at Artemi Panarin, like you said, a little older, and when I look at Jason Robertson, I think of playoffs, and he is a guy that is so good when it comes to the playoffs. Like, he might be quiet for a couple games, but he basically has carried the Dallas Stars through the playoffs. And then they just paid Harley a huge paycheck, which a lot of people are like, wow, like love I think it's great, but it seems like kind of an overpayment. And now they have to worry about their cap space with Robertson. So I definitely see Pat Verbeek trying to hound this. I think it was talked over the offseason that was an opportunity and he was kind of thinking about it. But if I think Robertson's going to be a player that can really seal the deal and give this team kind of that playoff depth that they need. And to bring that experience of a player like Robertson who knows how to score. I mean, that's why we brought Chris Kreider over. He's a guy that can just find that danger area, be sniffing out and getting those tips and picking up the trash. And Robertson's a guy that can do it all on the forecheck, the zone entrance, the defense. He's a guy that's going to be a huge asset if the Ducks can bring him over. The only issue is I don't know what they're going to have to give up and what Dallas is going to be looking for by that time. The Ducks do have a ton of prospect depth, and they have people that they could send over from San Diego, like Tristan Leno could be a possibility. Stain Solberg's been someone that's been mentioned that people are hungry for. There's guys that are there, but do the Ducks want to get rid of that homegrown talent? Do they want to move someone that's on this roster right now? That's where I have a hard time right now because I feel like this roster is unexpectedly gelling extremely well. Like we don't even have Ryan Strome in the roster at all yet this year. Where's he going to slot in once he's healthy? Radko Gudas, he's been injured, but then they bring up Ian Moore, who's been stellar. So it's difficult to see like who are they going to be willing to separate from that they already haven't brought in newly this year, like Ryan Pelling. He's playing a great fourth line center, not really having too much offensive success, but he does his role extremely well. So it's really hard. Everyone's kind of like sealing their deal to be an Anaheim Duck, but also people I know are going to be looking at me like, ooh, I want this guy. So it's definitely interesting right now. Who are they going to, their trade capital, I feel like is very low, but their draft capital pretty high.
No doubt. And that truly helps whenever you've so far proven it. But through 12, 13 games that these teams have played, you still want to see if it can be continuous. But also RFA, you can wait until the end of the season. So that's not really a this season type of problem. But we like to look big picture, of course, when it comes to certain franchises as well. And also how they continue to build. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to talk about tonight's game between these two teams, what the Panthers need to do in order to seal a win and continue their 5-game winning streak at the Pond. We'll discuss this and more next year on this crossover of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Ducks. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I recently used Game Time to grab seats for the matchup against the Red Wings, and it couldn't have been simpler. I had great seats in minutes. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go.
Third and final segment here on this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Anaheim Ducks. Thank you once again for making both of our podcasts your first listen of the day. And Panthers Ducks tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Pacific. So the Panthers are expected to address the same lineup, but there is an update on Jonah Gadjevich as he will not be on the road trip and will likely have an update between the off day between Anaheim and LA. There doesn't look like Mikael Granlund will be playing, but Radko Gudas is expected to return. Speaking of Radko Gudas, if the Ducks do move on from him, is Mason McTavish the next captain of the Anaheim Ducks? So we will see there if that is the case. But for the Anaheim Ducks, what's really impressive is the fact that they have a very young group, but the veterans that they do have on their roster it bumps the average age up. So it might not show on paper when it comes to average age, but still the bunch in Anaheim is an extremely disciplined bunch. With what I'm looking at Money Puck, the Ducks are second in the NHL in PIM taken at 43%. The lower the better. The Panthers are fifth in that category. However, the Ducks are 19th in power play percentage, but still, when you have more of those power play opportunities, you're going to give yourself more of a chance to win. And with speed, with that helps draw hooking calls, high sticks, and everything in between. That's really truly what's helped. And the fast-paced offense for Anaheim is truly something helpful. So that's also one thing that I noticed whenever it came to looking up the stats. But as far as last week's game, I was really frustrated, Kyle, because the Panthers had an opportunity to put the game away right before they allowed the shorthanded goal. 3 power play opportunities to start the second period, and then you just are unable to convert. And then the 4-on-3 late in overtime, that's where the issues for the power play really came. And the Panthers were hot to start the season, then had a little bit of a cold streak. So the key for the Panthers is if you have those opportunities, put them away early.
Yeah, I think as a Ducks fan, obviously, I was nice to see, but those chances are tough. We've had a couple games like that ourselves where the Ducks have multiple power plays and they end up capitalizing on none of them. Granted, we had Kreider out that whole road trip, which was tough. He's kind of the power play merchant, but it's been cooking with gas since he came back. They look pretty sweet. The Ducks kind of get stuck with not moving the puck. Well, they move the puck, but they don't move themselves. And that's where the power plays needs to kind of tighten up for the Anaheim Ducks, at least, is getting those quick movements. Like you watch the Panthers when they're on their power play, at least the last couple of games I've seen, it just seems like they're always moving. Like the players, they're causing chaos, they're causing mayhem, and they got those big bodies that get in the way. With the Anaheim Ducks, the defense right now, with that speed, it's a little helter-skelter, and I think that's just kind of something that fans need to accept when it comes to watching Ducks games, is that you're going to be having a mere heart attack every single game because they're going to give up shots because those Stahl can read them well, but they're going to be breaking it out. Like they just seem to have this new system that they have been learning, but it's getting tighter and tighter every single game. They're figuring out that zone defense, and the Panthers are definitely a team that I'm worried about when they come into the Honda Center. It's not often that you watch a game in person, which I need to go use Game Time to get some tickets for tonight. Yeah. But they give me a heart attack. Like the Panthers are tough in Honda Center. They show up and they're like, oh, you want to be Orange Country? Well, we live in Florida. We have oranges too. So let's go.
And there's also an Orange County in Orlando, Florida as well. So 2 Orange counties there. But also I'm very impressed with, I'm very thankful that the Panthers have put out the power play unit that I've wanted, with Lundell battling near the half wall in the corners. You have Mackie Semiskevich on the left circle to shoot one-timers, and then Sam Reinhart, not just his ability to shoot pucks from the bumper position, but also to protect the blue line and help out Seth Jones to keep those pucks in. And then the Panthers on the PK, they've had different combinations of forwards. Lundell and Reinhart are the better defensive guys who could get out in transition. And then you have a revolving door of guys with Etu Luostarinen. Like currently, it was the last game was Cole Schwindt who was paired with him, but you've seen that stretches Jesper Boquist there as well, and even Brad Marchand. So it's a little bit of a lot of switches for what the Panthers are doing, but that comes with the territory of where the Panthers stand roster wise as well. And I'm very pleased with how the Panthers have been able to manage through the circumstances that they currently are have. But the Panthers 3-0 to start the season at all those home games, but the Panthers have been not the best road team so far, and they salvaged their road trip by winning a big emotional game in Boston on their most recent 5-game road trip. And looking at this matchup between the Panthers and the Ducks, very important for the Florida Panthers side of things to at least get the road game going, because you still have a very home heavy schedule and the road games are only going to pile up once the calendar flips to January. But I'm looking at this from the Anaheim perspective as well, because Vegas and Edmonton haven't fully found their stride yet. Although Vancouver has center depth issues, Teddy Bluger's out, Philip Heedle's out, and I'm not really impressed with what the Kings did as far as their offseason, especially on their blue line. This is not a big opportunity for the Ducks to truly pounce if they truly do find a way to get a win. Which the last time the Panthers lost at the Pond, St. Patrick's Day of 2019.
Jeez, 2019, that's a while.
Yeah, wow.
We also just saw a stat that this is the first time the Ducks have been, well, now they're in second because Seattle came out of nowhere this year.
Yeah.
They're rocked out of a rocket or whatever the heck, however that term is. But this is a great opportunity for Anaheim to try to settle out some points. But I was going to say it's the first time since 2021 that they were in first place in the Pacifics. So
wow,
a lot of records or numbers that are finally we're getting to see that the Ducks faithful haven't seen in quite some time. So if they can seal off a deal against Florida, I think they're going to be setting their tone pretty well. Last game against you guys out in Florida, Bobrovsky was not in net. Marchand wasn't in the roster. There's some guys that they're still going to have to prove themselves against. And I don't know what Florida has in mind for the net tonight. If it's going to be Bob again. Okay.
I think Tarasov will start in San Jose on Saturday.
Okay. So I think that'd be that's what I'm really looking forward to. Is I'd love to see a Dostal Bobrovsky battle. There's an absolute goalie clinic is what I'm looking for out of this team. I don't want to see too crazy of shots. Obviously I want to see some defense, but I want this to be about the goaltenders tonight and watch these guys go to battle. And looking at the rest of this month, this is Anaheim's biggest challenge. I was talking to my friends. I sent them a picture. Excuse my unprofessionalism of looking at my phone real quick, but I highlighted the games coming up. So out of November, the teams that they play that are in the top 10 of the NHL right now, they had the Devils this week. They have Dallas on Thursday, Vegas on Saturday, Winnipeg next Sunday. Then they play Colorado, then Detroit. Minnesota isn't in the top 10, but then they play Utah later and Vegas again. So this is a huge, huge stacked month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 14 games this month are against top 10 teams. So the Ducks have a lot to prove this month, and the best way I think to get it started is to have that home win before they go take a little couple road games. And this is going to be a good challenge if they can crack someone like Sergei Bobrovsky.
No doubt. And if the Panthers are known for one thing, it's slowing the pace down, although the Anaheim Ducks are truly a fast-paced team. But later on this month, from what I'm seeing with the Ducks schedule, luckily it's a 6-game homestand to almost wrap up the month, although one road game at the very end. So we'll see how the Anaheim Ducks truly manage things, if they could set the tone once again, and not necessarily set the tone. They're on a winning streak currently, but continue. Keep the tone is what I meant to say here. But Kyle, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Ducks. Tell everybody where they can follow your work online, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me on, Armando. And I can be on Instagram or Twitter or X or whatever you want to call that, Blue Sky. Uh, the X handle is at LO_Ducks. And I believe Instagram, you just have to look up at Locked On Anaheim Ducks, all one whole thing. And then, of course, YouTube, go like and subscribe. And then all of your audio platforms for podcasts is where we're at. So please check it out. And also TikTok. I always forget about that thing, but TikTok, we're there too. We're doing it.
Yeah. So for the Anaheim Ducks listeners, you can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account at LO_FLA Panthers on X and on Instagram, and also follow the Locked On Florida Panthers anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. So Kyle, thank you so much, and I'll have my coffee ready for tonight as I'm on the East Coast. But have a blast tonight, and we'll see who wins. So thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, got to keep that energy up, and hopefully I'll get in there in person with some game time deals.